Hello everyone and welcome to this latest Talking News update. We've been stepping into this new year with a focus on collaboration and community engagement. We've recently had different organisations pop in and show interest on working with us on a variety of different projects, all to strengthen support for people living with sensory loss on the island. Our education programme is continuing to grow as well. We've had really positive engagement from local schools, and we are now delivering interactive sessions with pupils across different year groups at different schools. And we're helping young people to understand visual impairments and eye health, as well as the range of equipment and technology available to support in independence. The openness and curiosity from the children has been incredibly encouraging, and we are now developing materials for older age groups to expand this work further. But as always, none of this would be possible without our dedicated team of supporters, volunteers, partners and staff. Thank you all so much for being a part of the Sykes White community, and we very much look forward to sharing more updates with you very soon. Take care.
Here is this week's charity news. 23rd January 2026.
Swimming at Medina is on Monday between 1:15 p.m. and 2 p.m. We have the whole pool, so whether you wish to swim lanes or just have gentle exercise in the pool, you will be made very welcome. The cost is £6 and transport is available, although limited. All members are very welcome to join.
Our yoga at Millbrook House has unfortunately been cancelled until April. This is due to volunteer unavailability, and we apologize for any inconvenience.
Coffee and chat is on Wednesday, starting at 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment. This Wednesday we will be holding our quarterly catch-up and feedback at 11 a.m. If you have any feedback or questions about the charity, please either pop along or phone the office and we can discuss during the meeting.
Mix and Mingle is on Thursday at Millbrook House. We have a waiting list, so if you would like to join, please call the office.
Striders will be on Friday the 30th of January from Freshwater Bay up the Tennyson Down, with lunch following at the Crown Shorewell. If you would like to join, please call the office.
The fundraising committee are appealing for any items suitable for raffles, tombola, etc. that can be used throughout the year. If you are able to drop off at Millbrook House, or if you are unable to come in, please call the office and we can arrange collection.
Our Easter knitting campaign is now ready and the patterns are available. So if you are able to knit or have a friend, neighbour or family member who can knit and would like to knit for us to raise valuable funds, please call and speak to Susan, who can either send out either a pattern or email them to you. Our plan is for the Easter novelties to go on sale from the 1st of March.
Isle of Wight Bus and Rail Users Group are hosting a public meeting this Saturday, the 24th of January, in the Methodist Church Hall in Key Street, Newport. Start time is 11 o'clock. Ushers will be on hand to direct to seats if needed. Representatives from the main island transport providers and the council's transportation team will be attending. This will be an ideal opportunity to pose questions of interest to local transport users. This information is provided by Chris Vile.
Next Tuesday, the 3rd of February, our monthly coffee morning will be at the Old Smithy, Godsill, between 10:30 and 12 p.m. Linda and Yvonne will be on hand to welcome you. For any new members, we hold a monthly book group at Newport Library. This is held on the first Thursday of the month between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. The group decide on a book title and then either receive a CD or a memory stick from the RNIB to listen to, and then the following month the book is discussed at the group meeting. This is free to join. If this is something of interest, please call the office.
This is Michael reading an article from Ireland Echo. MP backs Council's call for urgent ministerial meeting over £13.4 million funding cut. East White MP Joe Robertson has stepped up his challenge to the government's £13.4 million funding cut to the Isle of Wight Council, warning that the move risks deepening existing inequalities across the island. Following on from a recent meeting with the local government minister, Alison McGovern, as previously reported by Ireland Echo, Mr Robertson has now written to the Department for Levelling Up and raised the matter in Parliament, urging ministers to revisit the data behind the proposed reduction in funding. In his letter, Mr Robertson voiced support for Isle of Wight Council leader Phil Jordan's call for an urgent ministerial meeting, describing the settlement as part of a growing divide between rural and urban areas. Government figures project that urban councils will receive 41% more spending power per head than rural authorities such as the Isle of Wight. The MP also questioned the evidence being used to justify the funding decision, while ministers have cited analysis by the Independent Commission of Neighbourhoods, ICON. Mr Robertson pointed out that the Isle of Wight East constituency was ranked by ICON as the second most left behind in the country. He is now pressing the government to release the alternative data sheets used to make their decision. Joe Robertson, MP, has said, despite this independent evidence being available to the government, ministers appear to have set aside ICONS's data in favour of alternative data sets that favour urban areas. I have met with ICON directly, and their work only reinforces the scale of the challenge we face on the island. We finally have a data we need, but the government is refusing to use it when deciding council allocations. This is not about asking for special treatment, it is about fair treatment. If the government is serious about spreading opportunity and supporting left-behind communities, it cannot ignore the realities of island life. Mr Robertson is calling on ministers to reconsider whether the proposed cuts properly account for island-specific challenges, including ferry dependency and higher service delivery costs. The MP's intervention builds on comments made earlier this month, in which he described the planned reduction as a failure to recognise the island's unique circumstances. He continues to campaign for a fairer long-term funding formula and improved cross-Solent transport arrangements.
This is Petrina reading from the Ireland Echo. Procurement path cleared for floating bridge replacement after official talks. East Cowes Town Council and Isle of Wight Council officials say a key government meeting has delivered encouraging clarity on how to move forward with the procurement process for a new floating bridge. The meeting brought together East Cowes Town councillors, Isle of Wight Council leader Phil Jordan, key committee members and senior officers. The discussion provided clear and encouraging guidance on the procurement framework, confirming that the authority can actively engage with potential contractors, including local suppliers, to ensure the unique requirements of the River Medina crossings are fully met. This positive clarification paves the way for a procurement approach that not only addresses technical challenges but also reflects the priorities of the local community. A senior commercial leader from the government service stated, "Given the complexity and level of risk associated with this procurement, a thorough and well-constructed market engagement period will be essential. Engaging with a diverse range of potential suppliers ahead of the formal process is key, provided this is carried out in full compliance with the preliminary engagement provisions set out in the Procurement Act." Both councils welcomed this advice and expressed their appreciation for the opportunity to receive guidance at the highest level. This collaborative approach will help ensure the next stages of the process are robust, transparent, and focused on delivering the best outcome for residents and businesses. East Cowes Town Council and Isle of Wight Council look forward to continuing this positive partnership as work progresses towards a solution that serves the community for years to come.
This is Michael reading from Isle of Wight Radio. Operation Clean and Safe Patrols launch in Ryde to tackle antisocial behaviour. A new initiative aimed at reducing antisocial behaviour and improving public spaces is launching in Ryde today, following a successful rollout in Newport. The first of a series of Operation Clean and Safe Patrols will take place in the town, bringing together the Isle of Wight Council's Public Realm Officer team and officers from Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary. The joint patrols will focus on enforcing public space protection orders, known as PSPOs. PSPOs give councils power to deal with antisocial behaviour in public areas, as well as environmental offences including dog fouling, dogs being off leads in restricted spaces, and littering. Following the Ryde launch, Operation Clean and Safe patrols are planned for Wootton, Fishbourne and Haven Street later this month, with Sandown and Lake set to follow in February. Residents in Newport may already be familiar with the initiative, with officers patrolling key locations such as St James's Square, Church Lytton and the bus station since the operation began in November. During patrols, council officers work alongside police to engage with residents and visitors, install additional signage, promote responsible behaviour and issue fixed penalty notices where necessary. Officers also carry out checks to ensure dogs are microchipped with up-to-date information on an approved database in line with current regulations. Since the launch of Operation Clean and Safe, the Council has issued fixed penalties for a range of offences, including dogs being off leads, littering and fly tipping. In Ryde, new sustainable signage made from recycled materials has been installed to support the initiative. Emily Tapsfield, Service Manager and Waste and Public Realm, said keeping public spaces clean is a shared responsibility. She said, Operation Clean and Safe helps ensure our town centres remain places people can feel proud of. We're working with our partners to educate and support residents, but we will take enforcement action when necessary. Residents are encouraged to report issues through the Council's website or directly to the police and to follow updates on social media.
This is Petrina reading from Isle of Wight Radio. New study to screen newborns for rare genetic conditions launches on the Isle of Wight. A major national research programme is now available on the Isle of Wight, offering newborn babies the chance to be screened for more than 200 rare genetic conditions. The Generation studies led by Genomics England in partnership with NHS England aims to test up to 100,000 babies across the country. The study uses a small blood sample from the umbilical cord to analyse a baby's complete set of genes, known as the genome. This can help detect treatable and rare conditions, including spinal muscular atrophy, SMA, cystic fibrosis, and very rare disorders such as Barth syndrome. Early detection means children can benefit from faster diagnosis and treatment, potentially slowing disease progression, improving day-to-day life, and supporting long-term health. Expectant parents are informed about the study during pregnancy and can speak with the research team if they are interested or have questions. Parents can also register their interest online through the Generation Study website, after which the team will get in touch. Babies taking part will usually have a blood sample taken from the umbilical cord shortly after birth. If this isn't possible, a heel prick test may be used instead. The samples are analysed by NHS genetic experts and results are sent to parents as quickly as possible. Families are notified by letter or email if no conditions are found, while any possible conditions are followed up personally by an NHS specialist who explains next steps. Sharon McCready, Principal Investigator for Isle of Wight NHS Trust, said the study could transform care for babies with rare conditions by helping families access support and treatment sooner. Participation in the Generation study is optional, free, and requires consent. Parents must be 16 or over, registered with a GP in England, expecting a single baby, and have spoken with the research team. Study information is available in multiple languages. The Generation study does not replace the routine NHS blood spot screen, heel prick test, which babies should continue to receive as normal.
Hello, this is the second part of the Talking News, read by Madeline and
Gerard.
And we start with news items from the County Press and the Observer. Wartime bullets discovery on beach. The discovery of more than 50 bullets on a beach led to a police response and a warning from a dog walker. Tim Shakespeare was taking a stroll on Yaverland Beach near Sandown when he was stopped by a passer-by. The other man had stumbled upon over 50 rounds at the base of the cliff. The bullets, measuring 5 to 6 inches long, are attached to a clip, making their discovery even rarer. Tim phoned the police. Posting on Facebook, he said, "Just wanted to give a heads up to anyone walking with children or dogs who may come across them." Police confirmed officers were called just after 3 p.m. on Sunday. A member of the public reported finding some ammunition on Yaverland Beach, the force said. Officers confirmed they have since been collected and removed from the beach. It's thought the bullets are anti-tank cartridge known as .55 Boys, used by the UK in the Second World War.
Man knocks his ex unconscious after storming into home. a man knocked out his ex-girlfriend with a strike to the face after barging into her home and confronting her about who she was speaking to after they had split. Ewan Matic, 20 years old, of Belvedere Street in Ryde, appeared before the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court, where he pleaded guilty to assault by beating. Prosecutor Liz Miller said the ex-couple had been together for just under a year and a half, and when in May 2025 his partner decided to end the relationship. The court heard that she blocked him from contacting her, but Matic continued trying to get in touch. Ms. Miller said that in the early hours of the 18th June at around 2 a.m., Matic called the woman and told her he was standing in her garden. The court heard that she was home alone and told him she did not want him there. And when she opened the door to tell him to leave, Matic rushed past her and went straight to her bedroom, where he began checking her phone, questioning who she had been messaging, and confronting her about it. Ms. Miller told magistrates it became clear Matic was not going to leave. So he stayed overnight, and the following morning he would not allow the woman to leave her home, causing her to miss the first day of her new job. Matic also made threats towards people he believed she had been speaking to, the court heard. Ms. Miller said that during the incident, Matic punched the woman to the left side of her face, causing her to fall unconscious. In police interview, Matic told officers he did not want to hurt her and claimed he struck her with an open palm rather than a punch. In a victim statement, the woman said she was fed up with Matic continuing to contact her and wanted to move on with her life. Defending, Oscar Vincent requested that a pre-sentence report be prepared. He told the court his client maintains he slapped the victim rather than punch her, but accepts that he knocked her out. Magistrates ordered a pre-sentence report and granted Matic unconditional bail. He is due to be sentenced on the 27th of February.
Progress in project to replace bridge. Significant progress has been reported by East Cowes Town Council and the Isle of Wight Council in the project to replace the troubled floating bridge. The two local authorities held a highly constructive meeting with a representative of the government's Crown Commercial Services regarding procurement for a new vessel. However, East Cowes Independent County Councillor Carl Love said the floating bridge would not quickly be replaced due to a vessel needing to be constructed, tested and implemented. In October, County Hall's Economy, Regeneration, Transport and Infrastructure Committee members decided to press ahead with a plan to replace Floating Bridge 6. The panel voted to assess market interest around the supply of a new vessel and agreed to instruct officers to procure a qualified company to articulate a high-level requirement specification and invite companies to procure solutions. The recent Floating Bridge meeting with East Cowes Town Council and the Isle of Wight Council provided clear and encouraging guidance on the procurement framework, the two local authorities said. Discussion confirmed that the potential contractors can actively be engaged with, including local suppliers, to ensure the unique requirements of the River Medina crossing are fully met. This positive clarification paves the way for a procurement approach that not only addresses technical challenges but also reflects the priorities of the local community according to the councils. The Crown Commercial Service representative said, "Given the complexity and level of risk associated with this procurement, a thorough and well-structured market engagement period will be essential. Engaging with a diverse range of potential suppliers ahead of the formal process is key, provided this is carried out in full compliance with the preliminary engagement provisions set out in the Procurement Act." Both authorities welcomed this advice and expressed their appreciation for the opportunity to receive guidance at the highest level. They said this collaborative approach will help ensure the next stages of the process are robust, transparent, and focused on delivering the best outcome for the residents and the businesses.
Inquest begins into prisoners' possible unnatural death. A jury inquest began last Monday into the death of a prisoner who was found hanging in his cell at HMP Isle of Wight more than 5 years ago. The Isle of Wight Coroner's Court in Newport heard that Imran Khan, 43, originally from Darwen, near Blackburn in Lancashire, died on the 5th of December 2020 after being discovered unresponsive in custody the previous day. An investigation and inquest were formally opened shortly afterwards on December the 16th, 2020, but the case was delayed for several years after it was originally listed during the COVID pandemic. Mr. Khan was in custody at HMP Isle of Wight, having been transferred there from HMP Dovegate in Staffordshire on the 25th of November, just over a week before his death. It was the third prison he had been held in while serving a sentence imposed at Preston Crown Court. The jury was not informed of the offence or offences for which Mr. Khan had been convicted, to ensure their judgment was not influenced. The court heard Mr. Khan had spent 14 years in prison and was eligible for parole the following year in 2021. Coroner Caroline Sommeray told the court the inquest was being heard with a jury so they could decide if Mr. Khan had died in unnatural circumstances in custody. The court heard Mr. Khan had a history of mental health issues and had been described as very anxious in the period leading up to his death, believing that fellow prisoners and staff were out to get him. Early on the 4th of December, Mr. Khan was found unresponsive and hanging in his cell on the ground floor of the prison's Albany site. Staff attempted CPR and he was taken to St. Mary's Hospital. Mr. Khan died shortly after 7:30 p.m. on the 5th of December. A post-mortem examination listed the provisional cause of death as delayed effects of suspension. The court was told Mr. Khan had been living alone in his cell and was meant to be observed twice an hour by prison staff. Pathologist Dr. Basil Perdue, an independent practitioner listed with the Home Office, now retired, carried out the post-mortem. He explained the findings of the autopsy and toxicology, stating that Mr. Khan had only a minimal chance of survival by the time he was discovered. The jury must determine whether Mr. Khan died in unnatural circumstances in custody. The inquest is expected to last 3 weeks.
Island pupils go to the top of the class. Island pupils at a school in Ryde have achieved a clean sweep of top marks in their latest performance exams. All 51 students from the Isle of Wight who sat the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art exams in November were awarded distinctions, including 38 from Ryde School. 32 of the pupils scored 90 marks or above, with 5 achieving 98 out of a possible 100. Ellen Weeks, a teacher, said, "It is a privilege to teach these hard-working young people and to help them develop confidence and essential communication and performance skills that will benefit them for the rest of their lives." The exams covered a range of disciplines, including spoken English, drama, and performance, and students were aged between 5 and 17. They sat exams from introductory stage 1 up to the gold medal in verse and prose and acting. Will Turner, Ryde School headmaster, said, "This is an exceptional achievement and a real testament to the dedication of all the pupils and Mrs. Weeks. We are incredibly proud of our Ryde School cohort and send our huge congratulations to other island children for all they achieved in these examinations."
2 towns are set to both bid to become UK Town of Culture. 2 towns have announced their intention to bid to become UK Town of Culture. The communities in Newport and Ryde will both make the case to be selected for the prestigious title after Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy announced the opening of applications. Those backing Newport said creativity is synonymous with the town, pointing to the Alouette Festival theatres and live music spaces, historic sites such as Carisbrooke Castle and Newport Roman Villa, museums, the Minster, and much more. Councillor Julie Jones-Evans proposed the bid to Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council and the Newport Business Association, and now a community-led application will be formed. Councillor Jones-Evans said, "As a county towns, Newport is well placed to help showcase the island's culture, creativity, and communities on a national stage. What makes Newport special is our scale and our spirit. We are small enough to collaborate properly, but ambitious enough to deliver big ideas. Culture already happens here every day. This bid lets us amplify it and share it with the country." A first community event to talk about the bid was held on Monday at Lord Louis Library. Meanwhile, Shademakers UK are leading the bid for Ryde, and a community team will take place on the 28th of January at 5 p.m. at the department. Representatives from the organization pointed to Ryde's rich cultural history, declaring it the cultural capital of the Isle of Wight, with vibrant events, a thriving nightlife, and attraction for both locals and visitors. The seaside towns host the UK's oldest carnival, the Isle of Wight Scooter Rally, the Isle of Wight Harp Festival, the Isle of Wight Chess Tournament, Steampunk Festival, and Mardi Gras. Joe Plumb, Creative Programming Director at Shademakers UK, said, "It's Ryde's time, a place with art at its heart. Let's come together and back Ryde's bid to be the town of culture. We would love to see as many people as possible come together to bounce ideas around and see what amazing things we can do in the town.
Councillor told to reveal rental homes she tried to keep private. Rental properties belonging to a councillor will now have to be publicly revealed, despite her efforts to keep the information private. Monitoring Officer Christopher Potter has asked Reform UK representative Caroline Gladwin, who is on the Housing Committee, for a list of her rental properties by January the 31st at the latest. Mr Potter's decision comes after a memorandum signed by 18 councillors was sent to Interim Monitoring Officer Francis Fernandez, protesting at the failure of Reform UK councillor Caroline Gladwin to declare her rental properties with her published declaration of interests. The member for Central Rural previously faced criticism after it emerged the council had served her warning notices in early 2023 under the Housing Act relating to the state of a flat she was letting. The Register of Interests page on County Hall's website for Councillor Gladwin currently reads, "Sensitive interest, exemption by permission of the Deputy Monitoring Officer in response to the question, do you have land or property within the Isle of Wight?" At a heated planning committee meeting last September, Mr Fernandez told members, Councillor Gladwin has declared her rental properties to the monitoring officer, and those interests haven't been put on the public register because there's an issue about sensitivity. But in a January 19th email to councillors, Mr Potter wrote, further to the query raised last year about the categorisation of rental properties in which the relevant councillor has a beneficial interest, I have finished my review. I am not persuaded that the legal test under Section 32 of the Localism Act 2011 is satisfied in the particular circumstances, and so I do not regard such interests as sensitive. Accordingly, I have requested an update list of current rental properties to be given to me by the relevant councillor forthwith or by January the 31st at the latest. Independent Socialist councillor Jeff Brodie said the ruling is hopefully the beginning of the end of pandering to Reform UK ahead of the next local elections. Councillor Brodie, in an email to memorandum signatories, said it had taken him more than 6 months to get this obvious conclusion, and shows Reform UK councillors can be stood up to by a strong council officer when they try to ignore the rules, as they tend to do over all the UK. Councillor Brodie said he intends to return to County Hall for 2 full council meetings before his term of office ends, after previously calling time on his council chamber attendance, citing intimidation and witnessing, pandering to Reform UK. Councillor Gladwin has been contacted for comment.
Elections go ahead in May. Isle of Wight Council elections will go ahead this May after a year's delay, the local government secretary Steve Reid has confirmed. Mr. Reid confirmed in a statement to the Commons yesterday, Thursday, that 29 council elections will be postponed as part of the government's plan to reorganise English local authorities. However, the local government secretary confirmed the Isle of Wight electorate will go to the polls this May. Elections will go ahead after a year's delay for voters, alongside polls to elect councillors to Essex County Council and Hampshire County Council. Mr. Reid said, Of the 136 local elections across England that were scheduled for May, the vast majority will go ahead as planned.
Driver who caused fatal crash is spared prison. A former village shop owner who caused the death of a cyclist in a catastrophic crash in Shorewell has avoided an immediate prison sentence. Timothy Cale, formerly of Main Road, Shorewell, appeared at Portsmouth Crown Court on Friday, January the 16th, for sentencing after being convicted of causing death by careless or inconsiderate driving. The 59-year-old was the owner of Shorewell Village Stores at the time of the fatal incident, which occurred on June the 5th, 2022, and claimed the life of Professor Simon McQueen Mason, 64, a leading academic at the University of York. A jury at the Isle of Wight Crown Court found Cale guilty following a 6-day trial in November, returning a unanimous verdict after less than 4 hours of deliberation. At his trial, the court heard that Cale, driving a Land Rover Freelander, reversed from New Barn Lane onto Shorewell Main Road at a triangular area known locally as the Green, directly into the path of Professor McQueen Mason, who was cycling along the road. Professor McQueen Mason was pronounced dead at the scene, having suffered devastating injuries. Prosecutor Russell Pine told the jury that Cale made a careless manoeuvre which may have saved him a few seconds but led to a catastrophic collision and the loss of life. Witnesses described rushing to the cyclist's aid, saying he was still breathing, despite horrific injuries, while others saw Cale drive away from the scene with his vehicle's rear windscreen smashed. One witness recalled that Cale smiled and waved at a passing couple he recognised. Cale later returned to the scene and told the police he believed his vehicle had been struck by a fallen tree branch and he had returned to remove it from the road. Throughout the trial, he denied wrongdoing and maintained he did not realise he had collided with a cyclist. "I was devastated, total shock," he told the court. "I apologise sincerely, but I don't consider my driving as careless." At Portsmouth Crown Court, Cale was handed a 1-year prison sentence, suspended for 2 years. He was also banned from driving for 3 years and must complete 200 hours of unpaid work.
Teen troublemakers target cinema seats. Seats have been ripped apart and stock stolen at a cinema, prompting a police investigation. Exasperated manager Amelia Ball of the Leo Leisure Commodore Cinema in Ryde took to Facebook to report a series of criminal and antisocial incidents involving groups of teenagers, which includes damage to a row of seats, theft, sneaking into screens without paying, and causing disruption for customers. In a post shared last Friday, Amelia said the latest incident, damage to a row of seats, had left the team extremely frustrated. She said they had reported the matter to the police and appealed for the parents of 3 teenage culprits caught on CCTV to get in touch. According to Amelia, 3 groups of teenagers have been causing constant chaos at the venue in recent weeks. She said the damaged seats, 6 in all, had only just been repaired, and the cinema had been left with debris scattered across the carpet. It is believed the group entered the cinema while Amelia was busy serving customers. She added that just days earlier, items had been stolen and teenagers had refused to move from stairways, blocking elderly customers attempting to access seating. An elderly couple left early without saying anything, but I did not realize why until later, Amelia added. If it's quiet and they are in there, they run wild, feral, and I have to keep going in to check on them. We've lost stock and we are having to fix the chairs again. I am at my wit's end. It's so disheartening and we are extremely fed up. It's unfortunate a few groups have to ruin it for everyone else. Police said damage and theft was reported and that the matter is under investigation. Following the cinema's appeal, 2 parents of the 3 who caused damage and mayhem have since contacted the cinema to arrange and discuss their children's behavior. The dad of the girl involved was absolutely mortified. He had no idea she was involved, Amelia added. Northwood Upholstery and Restoration came to the rescue by offering to replace the damaged seats free of charge, saving Leo Leisure about £300. The company recently repaired the same seats following earlier vandalism.
Main road set to be turning one way for nearly 3 months. A main road between Cowes and Newport turns one way on Sunday evening, January the 25th, for nearly 3 months. Southern Water is carrying out major works on Horsebridge Hill as part of a £5 million pipe replacement project. Southern Water said the upgrades will reduce emergency works and interruptions to water supply, as well as helping to cut leakage. The official notice states that from 9 p.m. Sunday until 6 p.m. on Friday, April the 17th, or when the works have been completed, the road turns one way between its junction with Note Common and its junction with Nicholson Street, Newport. A similar system was also in place from May the 12th to July the 5th last year, with a brief reopening for the Isle of Wight Festival. It means traffic cannot travel towards Cowes from Newport, but can in the opposite direction. The diversion route will be Forest Road, White House Road, Rolls Hill, Pallants Road. Southern Vectis buses, emergency services and vehicles engaged on highway winter maintenance operations will all be exempt. Throughout the entirety of works, a temporary road closure will be in place along Betty Haunt Lane from its junction with Forest Road for 25 metres. The closure is required for safety on the diversion route, while utility works are undertaken on Horsebridge Hill. While works are underway, the following roads will see their speed limit restricted to 30 miles an hour. Horsebridge Hill, between its junction with Stag Lane and its junction with Partridge Road, Rolls Hill between its junction with Little White House Road and its junction with Hillis Gate Road, Hillis Gate Road from its junction with Rolls Hill to its junction with Pallants Road, Pallants Road from its junction with Hillis Gate Road to the start of the permanent 30-mile-an-hour restriction. There will also be a 40-mile-an-hour restriction on White House Road and Little White House Road. A 24-hour highway clearway order will be implemented along Pallants Road northward, prohibiting any vehicle to wait on the carriageway. On the diversion route, the 6-foot 6-inch width restriction will be revoked in a northeast direction, that's Thorness to Northwood, along Rolls Hill, Porchfield, Hillesgate Road, Northwood, and Palance Road, Northwood.
Pensioner died from burns after a blanket caught fire. A pensioner died from severe burns in a house fire after a blanket wrapped around him ignited. An inquest has concluded. Glyn Bennett, 92 years old, of Shanklin Road in Sanford, was pronounced dead at St. Mary's Hospital at 8:40 a.m. on the 21st of April 2024. At around 2 a.m. that morning, emergency services were called to a significant blaze at his property. Mr. Bennett was one of 2 occupants in the house at the time. Both were given immediate medical support by firefighters and then by paramedics from the Isle of Wight ambulance service. It was later announced that Mr. Bennett had died from severe burns. An investigation into the cause of the blaze was subsequently launched and an inquest into his death was opened on the 25th of April 2024. Just under 2 years on, Mr. Bennett's inquest has been concluded in writing under Section 9C of the Coroners and Justice Act. Coroner Caroline Someray found that Mr. Bennett suffered severe burns after the blanket that was wrapped around him caught alight. She said it ignited after it came into contact with an electric fire in the room in the early hours of that morning. It was concluded that Mr. Bennett, born in Greater Manchester, died as a result of an accident.
Exciting details about new tourist attraction to open. An exciting new tourist attraction is set to open in Newport in late spring, breathing new life into a long vacant retail space. New details have been revealed about what visitors can expect from the highly anticipated experience, coming soon to the former Mother Care unit located next to Argos in Carisbrooke Retail Park. Random World is the latest venture from the creators of the popular Random Rooms escape room experiences. Unlike traditional attractions, Random World has been designed as an open, immersive space where visitors can explore at their own pace. Billed as a world of play, creativity, and gentle discovery, Random World aims to encourage curiosity, connection, and hands-on engagement for people of all ages and abilities. Rather than focusing on screens, speed, or competition, the experience centres on shared moments and imaginative exploration. Tickets will be priced at £14 per person when pre-booked, with children under the age of 4 admitted free. Each ticket will provide access to a 3-hour time slot, allowing visitors plenty of time to explore various environments without feeling rushed. Special events will also be held throughout the year, with tickets sold separately, and the venue will be available for private hire. We wanted to create something that felt welcoming and accessible, said the creators of Random World. The aim is to give people time and space to explore properly and really engage with the experience. As previously reported by the County Press, Random World will transform the long vacant retail unit into a hub of imaginative indoor activity. Planned features include quirky, interactive exhibits such as a giant magnetic wall for custom ball runs, a sensory forest, a fort building construction site, a model railway, and a relaxation cave with hidden details and surprises woven throughout the space. The attraction is expected to benefit from free on-site parking and extended stay times at the retail park. Further details, including the exact opening date and information on ticket availability, are expected to be announced closer to the launch.
Charity cooks up chit-chats and good food. A weekly warm hub is bringing islanders together over conversation and a good home-cooked meal. Hosted by Aspire Ride, the community lunch events, which run from Tuesday to Friday from 11:30 to 1:30, are open to all. Laura Hedge-Cox, kitchen and operations manager at the charity, and Chef Adam Gurney welcome regulars and those who need support or just enjoy the company to the Dover Street site. Laura said, "We have anyone and everyone comes through the door. Older generations who live by themselves, people battling addictions, people who have just come from prison. As long as they are polite, they are welcome. Hot food is served for free, but donations are welcomed. All the money contributed goes back into the kitchen, enabling the charity to provide more." Last Friday, the county press chief reporter Oliver Dyer reported, as well as reporter Alex Cooper and merchandiser Pamela Parker went along to the hub to find out more and chat to staff, volunteers, and those who attend, as well as providing a donation. It was part of our drive to go into the community to give readers the chance to give feedback about the country press. We were delighted to go to Aspire, where the aim of their regular events is to get people together, encouraging conversation and improving mental health. Shirley, 90 years old, from Brading, has been attending the hub for a few years. "It's great to meet people, and I've made a lot of friends since I've been here," she said. "I see them every week, and it gets me out." A minibus driver driven by volunteers goes door to door between Sandown and Brading, picking up and dropping islanders to Aspire weekly. The charity is always on the lookout for volunteer drivers. Anyone interested, please contact Sam Pigeon, volunteer leader at the Aspire Group. Alongside its community lunch events, Aspire hosts various community groups, a music room, and even has an escape room. The charity also offers kindness bags, food supplies to tide people over until they next get paid, relieving pressure on their household and on food banks. Laura said, "We have a lot of positive feedback. We are welcoming and friendly, and you've got issues, and if you got issues, we can try and point you into the right direction to get help."
And now we move on to some white memories and nostalgia. Mourning for Queen Victoria 125 years ago. When Queen Victoria came to the throne in 1837, the population of Britain was 25 million. By the time of her death in 1901, that had risen to 40 million. In 1837, there were 30 miles of railway track in Britain, which had increased to 24,700 miles by 1901. In 1837, the government spent just £20,000 on education, which rose to £12 million by 1901, with little inflation. Here on the island, Osborne House became the centre of the British Empire whenever Queen Victoria was in residence. Visiting heads of state, diplomats and royalty all came to the island to see her, along with the Prime Minister and other politicians. Victoria usually spent Christmas here, and she arrived here on December the 18th, 1900. Her doctor noted that she was a little confused for a couple of days, then recovered after resting. She received Field Marshal Lord Roberts on January the 2nd, 1901, hearing about his latest Boer War success. But this was to be her last official engagement. Concern for her health increased, and bulletins were posted on the gates of Osborne from January the 19th, culminating with "The Queen is dead" on the evening of January the 22nd. She was 81 years old. Many of her family were with her. Arrangements were made for the funeral, which was to take place on February the 2nd. Here on the island, this involved her departure from East Cowes on the royal yacht Alberta on February the 1st. The royal family would walk down York Avenue following the funeral cortege. Around 3,000 troops were brought to the island to assist the Isle of Wight Rifle Brigade in lining the route. Bandsmen, pipers, dignitaries, horses, and the gun carriage to carry the coffin arrived. The coffin should have arrived from London 2 days after her death, but delays meant that instead it was made on the island by the firm Marvins, using seasoned timber from the Norris Castle estate.
The day of the departure was fair weather. Thankfully, for about 40,000 people flocked back to East Cowes to watch their queen make her last journey from the island. Many walked from Whippingham station or crossed the Medina via the chain ferry. York Avenue was lined with people standing 8 deep. Every window in every house along the route was filled with people. Stands of seatings for 300 people had been erected outside the town hall by East Cowes Town Council. The proceeds from these seats were given to the Isle of Wight Country Hospital and East Cowes Dispensary. All wore mourning clothes of black, but it had been decreed that any decoration along the route was to be of purple and white. The Queen wanted a white funeral. She had left meticulous details with her dresser of the mementos that she wanted placed in her coffin with her. But in her hand, unbeknown to the royal family, was to be placed a photograph of John Brown, a lock of his hair hidden beneath flowers. The coffin was placed on the gun carriage, and her crown placed on the pole, covering it. The troops accompanying the carriage took their positions. The king and his relatives followed the carriage on foot, and the procession moved off. The queen's servants brought up the rear of the procession. The muffled drums beat out a slow pace as the queen's entrance to Osborne was reached, and the crowd of people there saw the queen's coffin borne on its way downhill. It was the end of the Victorian era, 125 years ago.
And now for some days gone by. The county press has been bringing the news to islanders since 1884. We've delved into the archives. 125 years ago, in January 1901, news of the death of Queen Victoria dominated the county press. The island was in mourning following the death of the Queen at Osborne House on January the 22nd. Stories, memories and poems about Queen Victoria were printed, and the proclamation made by the new King Edward VII was also reported. The growth in emigration from the island to Canada was highlighted, along with the financial and social benefits of a move to the colony.
100 years ago, in January 1926, a meeting of Ryde Town Council opposed the Western Esplanade scheme to build the seafront pavilion. An extensive landslide, 100 yards inland, at the undercliff between Ventnor and Knighton resulted in chaos for bus service users and cars. A cowsman was celebrating after he made a wireless contact with the army signals in Palestine. Mr. W.G. Sherratt's feat was even more impressive in that he did it using a 2-valve receiver with an indoor aerial.
75 years ago, in January 1951, a Firefly aircraft crash-landed in a field at East Ashy Manor Farm. The aeroplane, which had flown over from the Ford Naval Aerodrome near Worthing, killed a cow and destroyed a hedge, although the 2 occupants suffered only cuts and bruises. A meeting intended to help endorse communism was well attended at Ryde Town Hall. A Shanklin centenarian died aged 104. Born on the island in 1847, John Steinberger Sharp spent his life as an active member of the Shanklin community.
50 years ago, in January 1976, staff at Southern Vectis breathed a sigh of relief when they found out that the road underneath Moreton Bridge was going to have a foot shaved off it. The new double-decker buses were only just managing to squeeze under the Ryde to Sandown Railway Bridge. A new £250,000 passenger and car chain ferry was launched to serve East Cowes floating bridge service. For more details of the past, subscribe to our online archive, where you can read the County Press editions during back to 1884.
Now for some public information. Seeking more funding and promoting our towns. Following the successful UK City of Culture competition, first held in 2013, this year marks the inaugural UK Town of Culture competition, offering an exciting new opportunity to celebrate local heritage and creativity. This is welcome recognition that culture is not confined to cities and that our towns also play a vital role in shaping local identity, pride and economic renewal. I'm delighted to see that Ryde and Ventnor are considering bids, and I have offered my support to give them the best chance of winning. Towns can come together to submit joint bids, so the Bay Area, combining Sandown, Shanklin, Lake and Brading, could submit a joint bid. A strong proposal from the island could help showcase its cultural assets and community spirit on the national stage. City winners have historically been from the north, so I want to see the first town coming from the south. Last week I met with local government minister Alison McGovern to ask her why she is trying to cut Isle of Wight Council funding by £13.4 million while increasing funding to the most urban councils in England. According to the Independent Commission on Neighbourhoods, which was set up with the support of the government, Isle of Wight East is the second most left-behind constituency in the country, and the island's east and west constituencies are the only 2 completely surrounded by water and beholden to expensive ferry providers for the movement of goods and people. That makes delivering council services more expensive and presents its own unique challenges, not found anywhere else in England. I questioned the Minister again in the House of Commons, but she offered little hope of reversing the government's proposed cuts. Instead, she talked about a finite pot of money and needing to increase funding elsewhere in England. Meanwhile, the government has still not confirmed whether Isle of Wight council elections will take place in just over 3 months' time, or whether they will be cancelled for a second year in a row. I have met with representatives from the Independent Commission on Neighbourhoods, who understand our unique challenges on the island. I will use their independent data in the forthcoming roundtable meetings with the ferry companies, with a chair appointed by the Department of Transport. It is essential that those meetings take place with a proper understanding of the impact of the expensive and increasingly irregular Solent crossing on our local economy, jobs, health, education and more. We cannot improve many areas of island life without sorting the ferries, and for that we need government intervention. It has taken nearly 9 months for government to appoint an independent chair of these meetings. We cannot waste any more time before the first meeting takes place.
And now, what's on events? Please drop in. Police Community Support Officer Jackie May, representing the South Wight Neighbourhood Police Team, will be available at the Broadway Centre, Sandown, on Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 7:45 p.m. and at the same times on the last Wednesday of each month. Events at Shanklin Theatre. In February, on the 19th, Sugar Pie Honey Bunch. On the 20th, Tom Davis Spud Gun, scheduled date. On the 21st, Beyond the Barricade. On the 28th, Henning Wen, Acid Wen. In March, on Sunday the 1st, Choose George, celebrating George Michael. On Tuesday the 3rd, Shanklin Theatre Tour 2026. On Thursday the 5th of March, Matt Ford, Defying Calamity. On Friday the 6th, the West End Tenors. Saturday the 7th, A Night of Thousand Freddies 2026. And finally, on the 25th of March, Madama Butterfly, Ukrainian National Opera.
And now for some letters to the editor. Seeking descendant of photographer from Fern Nichols, Wolverhampton. I'm looking for Mr. Nick Roberts, the great-great-grandson of Victorian photographer Mr. Jabez Hughes. I've been studying Mr. Hughes for over 5 years and would like to get in contact to share my research with you. Nick would be around 70. He had an article in the county press back in 1996 when he was a company director from London. His grandparents were Reginald Thal Hughes and Emmeline Dorothy or Doris Clark. If you know of anything, please email me at fernielonichols99@gmail.com.
Greenland gets a row. Chagos gets a shrug. A letter from L. Jones of Newport. Dear Editor, I could not help but notice the irony in Sir Keir Starmer's current stance on Greenland. He appears willing to risk tension with the United States over the future of a territory thousands of miles away that has nothing to do with the UK, yet is prepared to hand over the Chagos Islands without any meaningful explanation or public debate. Many Chagosians long to return to their homeland. But, like Cameron before him, Starmer refuses to countenance that. In my view, the future of both Greenland and the Chagos Islands should be decided by their people in a democratic vote. That principle of self-determination is one we champion abroad. But, as is so often the case with Labour, what's good enough for others is sometimes too good for us. And what about us? There was no mention in Labour's manifesto of being forced to pay $3.4 billion for this rotten Chagos Islands deal. Perhaps we should have a referendum. Of course we won't, because the British people won't vote the wrong way. It's hard to avoid the conclusion that political posturing matters more than consistency. If the UK is going to stand up for democratic values, let's do so with some integrity and consistency, not selective outrage at what others do.
Is the party line the only line? From P. Stannard of Newport. Dear Editor, I recently wrote to Richard Quigley, MP, to state my objection to the removal of jury trials and asked for his personal position on this. I received a pretty standard fob-off, trotting out the party line, so I looked up his parliamentary voting record. He was in favour of this proposal for increasing stamp duty, for higher taxes on alcohol, for increasing capital gains tax, for charging VAT on private school fees, for opposing local vetoes on energy schemes, and against making the Lords wholly elected. He says he is proud to be a local businessman, but appears to be a champagne socialist like the rest of them. I will not own nothing and be happy, and I do not think he or his party represent anyone outside the Islington set. And this is editor's note. We asked Mr. Quigley for a comment. He said, while it's natural that I may have policy disagreements with constituents, I always try and listen and take their views on board. However, I take issue with the idea that I blindly support measures, particularly if I don't agree with them. Recently, as part of my work with the Labour Rural Research Group, we managed to get a change to the inheritance tax level. In the most recent vote, I didn't vote in favour. And as a local hospitality business owner, I've engaged with the government, leading them to re-examine business rates on pubs. I also must push back on the suggestion that I represent anywhere or anyone but the Isle of Wight, the people of Isle of Wight West. It's been a very long time since I've been to Islington.
This disruption is not logical. A letter from Nick Eagle, Newport. Once again, from the 26th of January until the mid-April, our lives are being disrupted by roadworks at Horsebridge Hill. Previous to a similar fiasco in May last year, there were roadworks in Horsebridge Hill and a two-way traffic light system was in operation, and apart from small delays, traffic flowed in both directions. In this case, common sense was used. But as in May last year, sadly, common sense has gone, to be replaced with health and safety, and whatever else can be thought of in order to disrupt people's lives. Whatever is quoted at us, it is logical to me that if traffic can use this 50-yard stretch of road from Cowes to Newport, then traffic from Newport to Cowes should also be able to use the road.
And that's all we have time for today. So it's goodbye from Madeline.
And goodbye from Gerard.
The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the scaffolding news follows that.
Hello. Later today, we meet Larchie, highly successful blind singer, producer and campaigner. She's this week's guest on an online service to encourage other would-be visually impaired musicians. We'll be chatting to her and finding out more about the service later on. But first, we want to find out more about government plans to make our roads safer and in particular, as far as In Touch is concerned, a consultation on whether to make eye testing mandatory for the over 70s when they renew their driving licence every 3 years. At the moment, self-certification that your eyesight makes you fit to drive is all that's required. Now, no one would deny that one road death is one too many, but the fact is that our roads are far safer than they were. Nearly 8,000 deaths in the mid-1960s, well under 2,000 now. And it could be argued that a continued ability to drive is one of the key ways in which older people can keep their independence and their links with the community. So we wanted to know how these plans would be administered and how to achieve the balance between keeping people off the roads who'd be a danger to themselves and others, while ensuring that people could go on driving for as long as it was safe. Lillian Greenwood is the Parliamentary Under-Secretary at the Department for Transport and is overseeing the consultation that's now underway on these proposals. Minister, a general question first. Why this strategy now, particularly when driving is safer now than it's ever been?
Well, there hasn't been a road safety strategy for Great Britain for more than 10 years. Every day, there are around 4 people killed on our roads and many, many more seriously injured. We know that most of those road traffic collisions are preventable. There's a duty on us, frankly, to act to reduce the number of those casualties.
So just to look specifically at the issue of how much you can see, when someone's learning to drive, they're required to read a number plate from 20 metres. But what kind of tests will these be and who will supervise them?
Well, we're consulting on the principle of introducing these mandatory eyesight tests. And we're also interested in people's views on the logistical aspect. How often should people be tested? Should we use the existing eye test that people have? Who should conduct it? Those are all part of the consultation.
Just quoting, these measures aim to reduce deaths and injuries involving older drivers without unnecessarily restricting their mobility and personal freedom. How would you propose to achieve those two things simultaneously, because they could be regarded as mutually exclusive?
Well, look, we know that we've got an ageing population and that more people are driving into their later years. And we know that, that's a really important part of keeping people involved in society, keeping their independence. I understand how important driving is to people. And older drivers who are fit to drive and have good enough vision, including, by wearing glasses where they need to, they should have nothing to worry about from this announcement. But the truth is that if someone can't see well enough to drive, whatever age they are, we want them not to be driving, because that's good for their safety and it's good for the safety of other road users. And we've seen some really tragic cases where someone with poor eyesight or someone who's driving when they shouldn't be driving because their eyesight has deteriorated have continued to drive, and that's resulted in fatal collisions, and that's what we're trying to avoid.
Stay with us, Minister. I want to bring in Jessica Kirby. She's Director of Services at the Macular Society. Jessica, what are you hearing from service users?
We're getting a lot of calls around driving, and in fact we always do. Driving's one of the most often raised subjects on our helpline, and it's very emotionally charged. It's such a big symbol of independence and identity. Some people are really welcoming clearer guidance and the regular checks, and other people are concerned, of course, about what those proposals could mean for future independence, and especially if that's when decisions are feeling perhaps automatic or not individualised, taking into account different people's circumstances.
Because generally people with macular disease are older and so may fall under this new system. How concerned are you about people losing their independence?
Well, lots of people, of course, with AMD are older, but we support people throughout their entire life. People's sight can deteriorate at any age, and that's why we really encourage people, whether or not you've got a diagnosed eye condition, to get regular sight tests, especially when sometimes changes to vision can be quite gradual and it can sort of sneak up on you a bit. It might not be that easy to notice small changes that happen very gradually over a long period of time. So we would encourage people to get sight tests anyway.
Well, I think this is a point that Dr. Peter Hampson would agree with. He's Clinical and Policy Director at the Association of Optometrists. Peter, I mean, I think you're in favour of the proposals in general, but you do have concerns. What are they?
We think it's about making certain that the services delivered via an optometry setting, hopefully, so that we can give solutions and not just bad news. You can think of examples with patients with cataracts seen in perhaps a standalone setting. They may just be told they don't meet the standard. Seen in a supportive setting, they can be told what they have, how it can be fixed, and how they can get back to making certain they can continue to drive safely.
I mean, could this not be a good thing in the long run, in that it will make it necessary for people to have eye examinations who might otherwise have put it off, and therefore maybe make treatment available before it otherwise would have been?
Absolutely. I mean, picking up most eye diseases early is the key. Glaucoma particularly being one of perhaps the most pressing conditions that can stop people driving because of the loss of peripheral vision. Catching it early, they can be stabilised, they can be prevented from progressing in many instances, and we can keep people driving safely. It's really about the public awareness of embedding those sort of good eye health habits of going regularly. That makes a huge difference. But we are a little bit nervous if a standalone solution happens, that some patients might perceive that because they've been told they meet the standard, that their eye health is okay, and that won't necessarily be true. And we think the sort of a more all-encompassing solution is probably going to be better for the public, better for patients, and better for eye health generally.
I will ask the Minister about that in a moment, but, you know, on the other side of this, could there be a risk of people deciding not to attend eye tests for the very fear of losing their licence and thus not getting the treatment they may need if an eye condition is discovered?
I think it's a risk, yeah, absolutely. If it's a mandation that people have to go, then we hope that would be prevented, because people will have to attend to make certain they can continue to drive. But we certainly wouldn't want people to put off attending for the reasons we've said about detecting disease and keeping people healthy rather than waiting until it's too late.
Minister, given that eyesight problems often do develop gradually and can occur at any time, isn't there an argument for making a proper eye test an integral part of the driving test for everyone and at points of, you know, licence renewal?
Well, I absolutely recognise that there are arguments for that, and I'm sure it's something that we'll reflect on when we receive the responses to our consultation. Obviously, you know, there's always a balance to be struck in policy about what's appropriate, what's achievable. And we know that eyesight deteriorates as we get older, so we do have to think about where we target resources. But I would encourage everyone to get regular eye tests, but particularly if you're a driver, because we do want people to stay safe on the roads. And I do recognise that people don't always appreciate, you know, that their eyesight is deteriorating. Our brains are amazing things, and they quite often fill in blanks that aren't there.
And what about Dr. Hampson's specific concern that these tests may not be overseen by a professional who would have the chance to put it in context?
Well, I think my reassurance would be that I think Dr. Hampson makes a really important point, and that's one that we will reflect on as we take these proposals forward.
Just finally, I mean, what's the timescale on the consultation and who will be involved?
So the consultations close at the end of March. We want to hear views from professionals who work in eye health. We want to hear from individuals who are listening to this programme. We want to hear from families who've been through this experience. Everyone's views are welcome and can go online onto gov.uk and find further details of the consultations, and I'd encourage them to let us know their views and ideas.
And Peter Hampson, I mean, how reassured are you, particularly on that point that you made quite strongly, that you wanted medical specialists to be involved in this process?
I think the intentions are clear that this is about trying to do the right thing, and we welcome that. For us, it's really about making certain that this delivers a good value system, not just the cheapest sort of system that can be implemented. Now, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like that's certainly the intention. Obviously, we will be responding to the consultation and making those points, which I think I would encourage everybody else to do as well.
Dr. Peter Hampson, Jessica Kirby and Minister Lilian Greenwood, thank you all very much indeed. Now, it may well be a myth that there is some intrinsic link between blindness and music, contributed to by superstars like Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, jazz pianist George Shearing. I could go on. But the fact is that while we may not all be superstars, there are considerable numbers of visually impaired people who do have the potential to make their mark in the music business, but still struggle to find a way in. And it's to help people like this that the project Sounds Without Sight was set up. The idea is to gather and curate information about all aspects of the industry, not just performance, but production, software and hardware, developments in assistive technology. And also to provide opportunities to question those who've already made it. Well, we'll have a great example of that in a moment. But first, we're joined by Jay Pocknell, who's the project leader of Sound Without Sight. Jay, tell us a bit more about it. What's the basic aim?
It broadly stemmed from my own experience of being a partially sighted person who wanted to work in the mainstream music industry on records that were making it into the charts. And I did accomplish that. But I think at that time, I was aware that I found it quite difficult to disclose my own vision impairment. And I also came up against probably more access barriers than I was expecting in the industry when I got to that level. And I guess I refused to believe that I was the only person with vision impairment working in music or wanting to work in music. But I just didn't know how to find others or access any specialist advice. So I guess where we believe we can have the biggest impact is showcasing the good work of people who are doing really well in terms of their particular niche within music or sound, so experts within the field. So we do that through our monthly events, and we also have our online knowledge hub which collates all of those solutions. What we really want to be is that one front door for all information that's relevant. What we really try to provide is that space to create community, so that when someone comes with a specific question, there's going to be someone that's got useful advice on that particular thing.
Right, well, let's talk about that specifically, because one of the services the project provides is setting up online sessions, including the chance to ask questions, as you say, of people who've made it. We were delighted to have Larchi as a guest on a music special about visually impaired musicians a couple of years ago, and it's great to have you back today. Welcome, Larchi.
Hey, hi.
So, in a nutshell, tell us your own story, really. I mean, how did you get into the business?
I came into music when I was super duper young. You know, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up, so I took to my piano, I took to my writing, and that was how the world understood me and I understood the world. And, you know, for a long time, I tried to be sighted passing. I tried to downplay my blindness and my neurodivergences. But then I realized that if I wanted to do my best, I was going to have to be accommodated. So I started to advocate for myself to just do well in the studio. I started using my cane, and as I got more and more confident and got more and more gigs, I was like being invited to really cool fancy galas. So I was like, my cane needs to match my dresses. So I started glamming up my canes, and eventually I joined the Recording Academy, and I asked them, what are you doing for accessibility and disability inclusion? And they were like, well, you're the first person to ask us that. So that turned into me eventually building an organization called RAMPed, Recording Artists and Music Professionals with Disabilities, to be able to give opportunities to more folks like myself, because I figured I was masking.
Yeah.
And I thought, other people have to be masking also. So a lot of folks, they think of disability or they think of blindness and they think, oh, you poor thing, right? And I wanted to break that stigma by letting people see someone who is successful, but not just me, to see them in all different shapes, sizes, creeds, and talents out in the music industry.
Well, as Jay was saying, part of the idea of this project is to give people the opportunity to put questions to people like you. And someone who might find that information useful is 18-year-old Oscar King, currently a student at Royal National College in Hereford, which runs specialist courses for visually impaired students. Oscar, first of all, just tell us about the music course you're on and what your ambitions are.
So the course I do, it kind of covers all aspects of music production, media. At the current minute, I'm doing an assignment where I'm having to put together a track. I have to record each instrument and then I kind of put them into a digital format where I'll compose it and compile it together. But there's a lot that goes into it. You know, it's everything from kind of setting up microphones to learning how to use a sound desk. It's all very high tech, and
it sounds far too complicated for me. What interests me is what do you actually want to do? Because it's not directly to be a performer in your case, I think.
No, because I kind of fell in love with music through film and through TV, and I realised that my passion was kind of sparked by how do they create this mood in this film and in this scene, why do they use this? And I realised it all began with that. And then through a lot of research and kind of Googling and things, I kind of found out what job role it was and I realised I wanted to be a music supervisor.
Right, so Larchie, there you are, he wants to be a music supervisor. Oscar, if you've got a direct question you'd like to put to Larchie, put it, by all means.
I was wondering if there was one thing that going into this industry and, you know, even in music supervision or whatever job it may be, if there's one kind of key thing to keep in the back of your mind, what would it be?
Be good.
I like
really,
that. Be
really good.
You mean good at your job? Not just be good, be good at your job.
Well, be a good person. Everybody should be a good person. But I mean, just be really, really great at what you do. Be undeniable. You know, I see a lot of times, especially at Ramped, and by the way, join Ramped, ramped.org. rampd.org. We have tons of supervisors, tons of music producers and professionals. But at the end of the day, you know, there's some people that will say, oh, I don't want people to just, you know, hire me because I'm blind and because they felt sorry. And then on the other side, there are folks who go, oh my gosh, I'm blind, hire me. It's just all about like the disability. But if you are really, really good, then you have the freedom to talk about your blindness if you want, or to not talk about your blindness if you want. You get to be confident enough at what you do to know that someone hired you for your skill, which allows you to advocate for yourself, which allows you to do what you love at your best. And then there's no question about it. And also continue to hone your craft. It doesn't just end at getting the job. It doesn't just end at folks knowing and recognizing who you are, whether you're blind or not.
No pressure then, Oscar. No pressure.
No pressure then, Oscar. None at all. None at all.
I want to bring Jay back quickly because, Jay, just tell us a bit more about this week's Q&A session with Larchie and, you know, how people can take part.
So our monthly meetup sessions, we've been running for about a year now, and the whole point of those is to A, showcase professionals and insight into their career pathways, and B, demonstrate new accessible audio music technology. So this Thursday, obviously, we're very much focusing on the first of those. So we've got Larchie, very excited to have Larchie as our main guest. And you can sign up now at soundwithoutsight.org, and then there's a button for monthly meetups. It is Thursday evening, 7 o'clock. It takes place on Zoom.
Well, Jay Pocknell, Larchie, Oscar King, thank you all very much indeed. And that's it for today. As usual, we're keen to hear from you. Send us your comments, your queries to intouch@bbc.co.uk or leave us a voice message on 0161 836 1338. From me, Peter White, producer Beth Hemmings, goodbye.
Scaffolding and skips news for week commencing the 19th of January.
In the Newport area, 15 to 16 Key Street, and in the Newport area, skips at 26 Red Fox Square.
Ride area scaffolding. Nationwide Building Society, 3 St. Thomas Square. James House, Church Lane. Wootton area skips. 111 St. Edmund's Walk.
In the Cowes and East Cowes area, the Portland Inn, Worsley Road, Gurnard, Carville Court, Terminus Road, 15 Clarence Road, East Cowes, and in the Cowes area, skips at 69A Pelham Road and 17 West Hill Road.
Ventnor area, Old Town Hall Court, Albert Street. Ventnor area skips, 68 Leeson Road. 1 Sydenham House, Hamborough Road.
In the Sandown area, 52 Fitzroy Street, the Bayshore Hotel, Esplanade.
Brading area skips, 6 Nicholas Close.